So I'm off to London to use VR, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlay some filters on my vision so it's like I'm living in a completely different world, and then I'm going to draw in that world. I'm going to be using AR Core from Google and a normal sort of cardboard VR headset to do this, and hopefully this will make for a very good scab.
Yeah, so what I did is I went right out of my way and won this at Angel, this Google thing, but I am going to now go to South Bank and to do the sketching in VR. Hopefully all goes to plan.
I'm going to be sketching this boat in VR, of course, and then hopefully, if I've got enough battery in that, head into the Tate and see what happens to paintings in VR. How's this going to work? Put the VR headset on. If my looks haven't already scared off the ladies, this is the nail in that coffin. We're very much in VR. My Sharpie, very difficult to see, actually. We're ready to draw. Okay, so yeah. Okay, for God's sake, this wind is, I mean, it's a joke. And you're always saying that. Sure of what I'm going to do next. I would like to get something that has really vibrant colours. See what happens. So we're back in VR. Really sketching this one. It's going to be fairly challenging, not lie. Okay, not so easy when you've got people going about. I guess you see something new. Each shade it is sort of brought out a little bit, which is really interesting. Definitely here. I mean, I can't even tell if I'm in the right resolution. This looks a little bit stretched for me, but you'll see in post if I'm right or not. Once again, I'm going to start with those dots down there, and you can really see, I mean, these people must think I'm an absolute moron. Good. Yes. Should we put the pen in there? On this wall, the people are just feeling it's a felt wall, and it changes as you you touch it. So I want to film people using it. Yeah. Let's do another one. So people say he's touching them all like that. Okay, little boy. Fairly dizzying. Not quite difficult to sketch. Now off for a cheap haircut by a man who doesn't understand me, but when I get home I'll review the, I don't know what's called them, sketches art. So I'm back from the whole thing. Had a haircut. Very good barbers, by the way. Van Barbers, just up the road. Definitely recommend them. Where's the camera? There it is. So we're going to look at the art. Yeah, art. I look at what I've done sketching through VR. Going to be interesting. So I'm going to start off with this one, which I thought was Grenfell Tower. It's actually the Monument for Living from concrete and wood. This sculpture is a scale model of the Burj El Mer building in Beirut. It's very interesting actually, because what should have been a completely square pen turned into a really rectangular one because of the distortion in the VR, which I found really interesting. I think the depth of field is actually completely changed with two cameras. It looks so up front that it almost seems like the further away you got, the bigger stuff was. Because the peripheral vision is brought in by the VR to give more of a depth effect when you're in it, which meant that sort of what would have been the taller building was just sort of squashed down. So next up is The Snail by Henry Mattis. And you can see that I've become used to the sort of weird warping of being in VR, and also to the people that just sort of stopped nearby and looked at me like I was some sort of freak. I've missed out a whole lot of squares because in VR things look so different, and because I've got you've got to think there's two videos being fed to each of one of my eyes, so you can imagine with all the colours being mixed up constantly, which is what I wanted to not be able to grip onto reality to see what happened. It became really difficult to discern the different squares. But interestingly, the squares that had sort of defining characters, i.e. not being completely square, like this red one here, which is sort of got some curve on it. I did manage to get in there, even though this blue one's clearly at the bottom in the original. I somehow drew two more completely different ones underneath, and I have no clue how that happened, but still fairly interesting. I realise now that this is less exciting than a sloth on a pharmaceutical slow me down, so feel free to skip the video or go to the end or something. Then we're back to the beginning. This is when I was outside. I must have put this one behind because it started getting wet. I was underneath an umbrella in VR and my bag was just, I had a whole lot of wire sticking out there. I think very opportune for someone who likes stealing things. You can't. I mean, I've got no clue. It could be this way round and that makes more sense. What's the point? Anyway, I think what's going on here is that this was the railing. This was my very first one, and so the warping, I was so unused to. I was like, what the hell? How can I? You can see I'm in the wind, it's raining, and the umbrella, and I was like, what am I going to do? But you can see here that the railings have really been stretched out, especially in the middle, and then further out, they kind of come together. More about that sort of peripheral vision being squashed in to provide more depth. I guess it's coded to be more exciting, so you can, your eyes and your brain can immediately work out the depth, really, simply, instead of it just being the centre of our vision, which wouldn't look great. I do know what this one is. It's a bit more clear, and this is, I'm getting more used to being in VR, and it's stretched out the railing again, but I tried to do it more equally. And here you've got the bridge, I think, and that being the boat we saw before, but now because it's kind of on the side, it's a lot smaller. I mean, I can't even be bothered with that one. Oh, I've got more of an idea. Actually, this is the wall that was in there. It's the felt wall, I believe it's called, and it's in the Tate at the moment. Really interesting, actually. I'll put my hand on there. It's sort of the felt sort of changes colour very slightly depending on sort of which way you move the fur. So so this is a woman that was sort of getting her whole body on there, which was fascinating. There's a few more postures I think that came out from the wall, which was my favourite, because watching people is a lot of fun, especially in VR. And I think I was equally an interesting person to watch in there. Looks like I've done the balls. What can I say? What have I taken from it? Well, when do we need technology? And I think that this would be really interesting if my phone or whatever it is that's in the VR can provide something that's more than a distorted image. I thought that was really good in itself. It was sort of experiencing it almost like a computer. One of the filters was actually how, say, a car sensor, sort of a depth of field sensor, would experience traffic. Next time I do this, I want to have a different, maybe like an infrared camera would be really, really interesting, a proper one that could sort of, so I can sketch the heat of the room. That'd be really interesting. And I think that's probably what I'll do next time. But yeah, it's been really cool. What a weird thing to do. I know, let's sketch through VR. And so often we want to take stuff out of the equation. It's like, how close can we get to the art? That's why people go to art galleries, right? They can see the brushstrokes, they can see that stuff that you would never see on a screen. And what happens when you actually lessen the quality? Or maybe it's not lessening the quality, maybe it's bringing new characteristic stuff that you wouldn't see. Anyway, that's it for this scab, or scav, I guess, SCA video blog. See you next time. What the hell? Brilliant.